Section C of the OEI rubric is all about assessment, making sure it's effective and provides adequate guidance and feedback. Let's take a look at some of the changes and improvements economics instructor Don Carlisle made to his assessments after his POCR review. C1 through C4 are about effective assessment, but sometimes areas within the rubric can overlap. Let's start with C4, frequency, because that is fairly easy to measure. One way to measure the regularity of assessments is to check the Assignments tab. In the original course, we can see that there were discussions, chapter quizzes, midterms, and a final. Although there was not a lot of variety, many assessments were given, and they were given at regular intervals. In the new course, even more assessments have been added. Don's original course contained rubrics, but they were not always included.
And other things like rubrics, where I had a rubric on something else, but I didn't have a lot of detail within the actual rubric in the course. And Tracy's like, no, just put it in there. I said, all right. So, which I see the value at now. Initially, I just had thought about it differently about it. So it was good. It was good to hear a different viewpoint. It was good to see that done differently. And now I'm sitting back and go, oh yeah, I wouldn't do it any other way.
C6 has us check the clarity of assessment instructions. In the early version of Don's course, sometimes the quizzes did not always contain clear instructions. In this case, there's no real instructions at all. Sometimes the instructions for discussions were adequate, but could have been stronger. In this discussion, for example, additional instructions are provided in a discussion assignment link. In the revised course, where some of the content has been combined, we now see that the Chapter 7 quiz contains detailed instructions. Students now know exactly what to study before they take the quiz. And as we see in this first discussion, additional details are now right in the prompt, including word count and number of posts. C7, feedback, asks us to look to see if the course includes a clear description of how meaningful, timely feedback on assessments will be provided. In the original course, information about providing timely feedback cannot be found in the syllabus or in the communication policy. But in the revised course, that information is now clearly communicated in the communication policy.
So I've done some blog posts, as you know, talking about some different types of feedback. I mean, more importantly, I think audio feedback has been the one thing that I've just absolutely loved. I think it goes back to some of the topics like humanizing and doing some other pieces. And plus, I find it extremely helpful, extremely easy. It's a great way to get across a lot of ideas very quickly to students, and it's individualized. And so for me, it's been a big part of what I do.
Section C8, self-assessment, often poses difficulty for online instructors. Listen to how Don creates opportunities for student self-assessment with feedback in his course.
Quizzes are quizzes, and I like quizzes in and of themselves, and some of this automated stuff that you can do online is great, and a lot of it is almost giving the students time to check in, like, where are you at? So you kind of have this very standardized, straightforward quiz that is going to tell students if they're right or wrong. I built in some learning check questions, and some of that bounces between 2 pages within Canvas. So there'll be a question, and then they can hit a button, and it'll go to the answer page, and then they can flip back.
At this point, having looked at several of Don's assignments, we can return to C3, variety. Keeping in mind the formative self-assessments and low-stakes quizzes we find in his revised course, let's listen to how Don thinks about the discussion board.
Quizzes are great. So I've really found that online, The discussion piece has become a real focal point of a lot of my teaching, and it has wrapped up, as I mentioned before, they're not casual discussions, they're more academic discussions. And in that sense, they discuss things with other students. They really kind of have to analyze something and put forth their ideas and their understanding of that particular concept. And that's when I get to jump in after they've interacted with themselves and with other students, as I get to jump in and say, okay, hey, look, good job, or and this is always in concert with a very detailed rubric. And so with the rubric, I get to use the rubric and then jump in there and say, hey, really nice work here, but you didn't really kind of hit the concept, or you missed these key concepts, or you were talking about something else that didn't really fit. And then the students will very quickly, a lot of times sometimes even minutes after I posted that audio feedback, will send me an email message, oh, that now makes total sense. And so in that sense, that interaction has become an important piece of my online teaching.
We hear Don describing his discussions as formative types of assessments, places where he can interact with students and provide feedback that will help his students on the summative assessments that take place later on in the form of midterms and final exam. Don's efforts with assessment and throughout his course have been helped by going through POCR review. Like all good instructors, though, Don himself is first to admit that the improvement cycle never ends.
And so your first couple of courses, as we all know, even when I go back to my live courses and I think, oh, I really did not want to be a student in my first live course. But, there's, as we get better and as we move along, I say now, I really like what I'm doing and how it works. Could it be better? Sure. I mean, I look forward to new technologies and all kinds of cool stuff. But I also think that, the feedback that I give is valuable and it's good. And like I mentioned, it takes a lot of time.